Welcome back to MTG Burgeoning, your channel for all things Magic. We are back with our current deck building series as we are continuing to forge a deck around Garth One-Eye with the abuse of artifact tokens. What's up, MTG BC? That is the MTG Burgeoning community. Here we are again. We're picking up right where we left off as we continue to fill in the 99 around Garth One-Eye with our dream of making, creating, abusing, and using as many artifact tokens as possible in order to see our wins inflate. So if you missed any of the previous installments of this current deck building series, you can click the links in the description below and it'll bring you right up to speed. Very briefly, here are the cards already included in this Garth One-Eye deck. We have Ragavan, Nimble Pilferer, Dockside Extortionist, Monologue Tax, Tago, Goblin Weaponsmith, Tireless Tracker, Tireless Provisioner, Fey Offering, Search the Premises, Sahili the Gifted, Tezzeret, Artifice Master, Brass's Bounty, Old Gnawbone, Lonus Cryptozoologist, Academy Manufactor, Inspiring Statuary, Krark Clan Ironworks, Anointed Procession, Storm the Vault, Galazeth Prismari, Second Harvest, Urza Lord High Artificer, Goldspan Dragon, Shimmer Dragon, Whir of Invention, Rise and Shine, Jirapur Ethergrid, Mechanized Production, Revel in Riches, Hellkite Tyrant, Marionette Master, Tezzeret Master of the Bridge, Hellkite Igniter, Reckless Fireweaver, Aurelia's Fury, Comet Storm, and Debt to the Deathless. Besides the last three spells, Aurelia's Fury, Comet Storm, and Debt to the Deathless, you'll notice the trend of every single preceding spell having to either produce artifact tokens or use them in some way for our end. And that's pretty much what this deck is going to do. It's going to take all of those different artifact tokens and let us win the game with them in so many different ways, shapes, and sizes. It's going to be quite a deck to play once we complete the 99. For the purposes of clarity, our episode for today, we're going to install our removal and our disruption. Keep an eye on the disruption portion of these cards because we did select a couple that are going to be quite flavorful and fitting for the purposes of this deck. So, as the No Frills destruction begins, let's start with an Assassin's Trophy. Beautiful. It's a black and a green. Destroy target permanent an opponent controls. Yeah, they get to have a basic land for free, but sometimes that permanent is a lot more important in the graveyard than it is the land. So we have no problem swapping a land for something that's just even worse. All right, speaking of swapping one permanent for something that's not as bad, we have Beast Within, 2 and a green, destroy target permanent, and they can have their 3/3 green beast creature token. We are almost always going to be on the better end of that exchange. And we have Beast Within 2.0, Generous Gift, does the exact same thing, except it leaves behind a 3/3 green elephant creature token as opposed to a beast. But everything we said about Beast Within, we apply right to Generous Gift. We don't mind giving them the 3/3 token because whatever we destroyed was much, much worse. The next removal spell has a mana value of 3, destroys a permanent, but leaves our opponent with nothing but sadness. It's sorcery speed, and it is Vindicates, 1 white and a black, destroy target permanents, because sometimes we can do that during our turn. We don't always have to cast an instant at end of turn or during combat in order to remove a threat. All right, so with our targeted removal out of the way, let's move to some more mass removal and disruption with, of course, look, folks, I get it. I know, it's Cyclonic Rift, overloaded, it's just ridiculous. I get it. I don't disagree with it. The bottom line is it's legal. We have blue. It's going in there. That's really all I could say about it. It's going in there. All right, next up we have Merciless Eviction. 4 white and a black. It's a modal spell. We get to pick one of the following. Exile all artifacts, which I hope we never have to do in this deck. Exile all creatures, exile all enchantments, or exile all planeswalkers. This is included because of its versatility. If we're playing against Super Friends, we can get rid of the planeswalkers. If we're playing against some kind of enchantment deck, of course we can exile the enchantments. We don't have as many creatures in this deck as a lot of other decks in the format, so I propose that Merciless Eviction will most likely be used for its second mode the most often, and hopefully we won't ever have to, but if it comes down to exiling all artifacts, well, we will grit our teeth and bear it. All right, next up we have Austere Command, another modal spell, but this time we get to choose 2 for the same mana value, but this is 4 and 2 white versus 4 and a white and a black. We pick 2 of the following. Destroy all artifacts. No! Destroy all enchantments. Destroy all creatures with converted mana cost 3 or less. And destroy all creatures with converted mana cost 4 or greater. I sense that the last 2 modes will most likely be the most popular modes from which we choose, although I can see the need to get rid of some enchantments as well. The versatility, again, is the reason why Austere Command is included in this deck. All right, next up in our last board sweeper before we really move into our disruption spells, and that's going to be Blasphemous Act. If you've played with this card, really in any format, but particularly in Commander, you know that we're never paying 8 in a red for this card. More likely than not, we're just tapping 1 red mana and sending 13 damage to every creature on the battlefield. Blasphemous Act is one of the best removal spells in the format, and generally for me is red card number 1 I look for when creating an EDH deck. So those are our removal spells. Now let's talk about our disruption spells. Because we are playing a deck that is centralized on creating artifact tokens, I find it flavorful and on point to include a couple of spells of a subtype of cards that I generally would never think about adding into any of my decks. If you're a fan of the channel, you know that I have great disdain for counter spells. I am not a proponent of counter magic. I don't applaud it. I don't reinforce it. However, with that in mind, there are a couple of spells that we can include that could really enhance the flavor of what this deck is trying to accomplish. The first is Confirm Suspicions. It's a counter spell, but it's 3 and 2 blue, so it's not like it's just a couple of mana to counter any spell. I mean, we are investing 5 mana into a counter spell, so that in and of itself may be enough to reconcile the hard feelings that may occur at the table by countering someone's spell. And when we do, we get to investigate 3 times, which means we can create 3 clue tokens, which again is what we want to do in this deck. We want to create those artifact tokens. So if we can hold up some mana, we can counter an integral spell of one of our opponents. We are investing 5 mana to do so, and we get to have 3 clues in exchange for it. I think that's pretty fair. I think Confirm Suspicions is a fair enough counterspell to include, even though it does counter a spell. So Confirm Suspicions is in as one of the 2 disruption spells in the category. And the next one, well, this is the one that's really, really spicy for what we want to do in this deck. And again, it also has a mana value of 3 and 2 blue, but this spell is called Spell Swindle. Again, counter target spell for an investment of 5 mana. That's a lot of mana to invest to counter a spell. This isn't, your regular old 2 blue counter spell or 2 blue mana drain. This is 5 mana. And when we counter this spell, we create X treasure tokens equal to the spell's converted mana cost. So if somebody's casting Kozilek, Butcher of Truth, and we counter that bad boy, we're getting 10 treasure tokens. And it's because of the presence of these treasure tokens that we can create that makes including Spell Swindle such a flavor win, because we are centralizing the deck nearly every single spell in this deck thus far creates an artifact token. If we take out of the picture our 8 removal spells and the 3X spells, that's 11 spells out of everything we've included in this deck that does not create artifact tokens, including Garth One-Eye, which also does the same thing. Spell Swindle is the last disruption removal spell included in this episode and this subset of cards, and it is a flavor win, MTGBC. It is a flavor win. And there we have it. We are one step closer to completing this Garth One-Eye deck. When we return next, we are going to install some mana ramp and a couple of other nice miscellaneous spells that should help smooth out the deck play and make Garth One-Eye even more dangerous. This is MTG Burgeoning, your channel for all things Magic.